Hello there. So yeah, I've got a few minutes here. Let me sit up. I'm reclining. Got a few minutes here before my next appointment. I said I was going to talk a little bit about this book, God's Armor Bearer, which is a false statement in itself because it's not talking about being God's armor bearer, but it's talking about being a man's armor bearer. Okay. This one thing it says on page 15, the spirit of an armor bearer is the spirit of Christ. It is the heart of a servant. But the person who gives this book and wants you to follow this book doesn't have the heart of a servant. He or she wants you to serve them. This man, Terry Nance, that wrote this book, one thing I noticed throughout this book, I only read the first part of the book. I didn't read the second. But in the first part of the book, when I mean volume, when I say first part, I don't mean the first pages. I mean volume 1 of the book. He is always saying that God spoke to him and that God told him and God revealed to him. And it's constantly saying that these things came from God. But I know people personally, and even in my own life, my own spiritual life, that sometimes I think things and I believe that God said them, but God really didn't say them. It was what I wanted. And I think that's a lot of what this guy says, because if you look at his website, look at his church, he's not a very credible person that you could look at and say, well, that's a godly man, when you look deep down into his life. And that's why I'm wondering why some people that bash and down and call this man's denomination or movement or belief system wicked and sinful and worldly and not of God, but yet they'll say, well, we're going to read this book and we're going to cherish every word of it and obey it to a T. It doesn't make sense. Page number 18 says that an armor bearer must have a deep down sense of respect for his leader and acceptance for and tolerance of his leader's personality and his own way of doing things. Well, what if he does things the wrong way? Just like I talked about in the other video, King Saul. He done everything the wrong way, not the way that God wanted. And it says here that this man, he tells a story about himself. It says, several years ago, I learned a secret which has helped me to flow in harmony with my pastor. I determined that if the end result of my pastor's plan is to build and extend the kingdom of God and win souls for Jesus, then I'm willing to flow with the plan. Yes, exactly. But what if the person that is teaching you this book, or this man, is not going with the trying to extend the kingdom of God? What if his main purpose is not winning souls for Jesus? What if because what this sounds like is it's a man trying to build up his own kingdom because of pride. That's what Sodom had, was pride. The next page says, you must make up your mind to submit to your pastor in the same way that you would submit to Jesus. Again, what if your pastor is a dud and he's not following Jesus? And down here, there was a spot that someone took these whiteout things, and they whited out both sides. So I figured it was something that they really did not want me to read. So I got my light on my phone and I shone it through this so I could see what it said through the whiteout. And this paragraph says, we must not look at the person, but at the office he occupies. Did you hear that? Don't look at the person and the way he lives and what he says and what he does, but just look at his office. Just like President Obama was in office. It doesn't matter if he accepts gay marriage and encourages it and encourages killing babies and whatever else sinfulness and wickedness. Look at his office and let's go along with it. Yeah, right. We do not regard the man, but the position. We obey not the individual himself, but God's authority in him. God's authority in him, but what if he don't have God in him? Anything less than full submission is rebellion, and rebellion is the principle on which Satan and his kingdom operate. So you see right there, he says anything less is full submission. But then the part that's whited out here, it says, but I can't read it right now. I'd have to get my light. I'm using my phone. But it says, unless that person goes against what Christ says. You've got to be in submission to Christ first before you're in submission to another man. Okay, and it says on page 20, and there's another. There was somebody stopping behind me and getting out, and it made me nervous. Page 20, number 5 says that an armor bearer must make the advancement of his leader the most important goal. Make the advancement of your leader the most important goal. That's like just dedicating your whole life to a mortal man to make him advance. But there's something else that's whited out here, and it's not on the other side, but I think it said something about Christ being advanced first, and whoever read this whited that out. And then it says, if anyone ever says to you, I want to tell you something in private, but you must promise not to tell the pastor. You must promise not to let the pastor know I told you about it. You should stop the conversation immediately and say to the person, you may as well hold your breath, because I will not make such a promise. So what if there's an instance of a church up north in Virginia, and the pastor was molesting little boys? What if a little boy came to a leader in the church who had read this book and said, the pastor touched me where he shouldn't have touched me, and they said, I'm going to go tell the pastor. And they go tell the pastor, and the pastor goes to the child and says, I told you not to tell anybody. Don't tell anybody or I'll kill you. Keeping secrets, it's not right. And I didn't go. It says the functions of an armor bearer. It starts on 29, page 29, and it says surrenders completely to his leader, trusting him implicitly and obeying without hesitation his every command. This is not working together as a team. This is you working for someone else. His every command without hesitation. Do you see that? Isn't that awful? Anyway, it goes, what it has here is it has a great big list of things. The functions of an armor bearer. It says completes his leader's commands perfectly, assists his leader in all activities and undertakings, organizes and arranges his leader's activities. Well, what does a leader do? If the armor bearer's got this whole list of stuff that he's supposed to do, what does a leader do? Sit around and drink sweet tea and imagine up and think of things for the armor bearer to do? Come on, people, wake up. I've got a lot more. I'll finish this in the next video.